Hello and welcome to another standard video. Today we're checking out this white, black and red or mardu colored control deck, and it's not just any control deck, it's a Ketramose control deck. With the rise in popularity of the various Kevero graveyard decks, I thought it would be a good idea to dust off Ketramose, the New Dawn. This 3-mana 4/4 legendary god has Menace, Lifelink and Indestructible, although it cannot attack and block unless there are 7 or more cards in exile, and this counts both the opponent's exile zone as well as our own, so as long as there's 7 total in exile, we're good to go. And then in the meantime, whenever 1 or more cards are put into exile from graveyards and or the battlefield during our turn, we get to draw a card and lose 1 life. So even if Ketramose can't immediately attack and block, it will function as a powerful card draw engine, as our deck is filled to the brim with ways to exile cards from both the graveyards as well as from the battlefield. And one of those is Strategic Betrayal, which makes the opponent exile a creature of their choice, and we also get to exile their graveyard. So this does double duty, can draw a card with Ketramose of course, but also gets us close to the 7-card threshold, assuming the opponent had any cards in their graveyard. Then we also have a Ride's End, which gets a 3-mana discount if it targets a tapped permanent, can exile a creature or vehicle, so we can cast it for 2 mana if the opponent's attacking us with a haste creature, although sometimes we want to wait to cast it in our own turn, so if we have Ketramose in play, at least we'll get to lose a life and draw a card, which doesn't happen if we exile stuff in the opponent's turn. Then we also have Inevitable Defeat, which is a main reason we're splashing a bit of red, cannot be countered, exiles a non-land permanent, and we also make the opponent lose 3 while we gain 3, and this is alongside Lightning Helix, another reason to dip into red as a nice removal spell that can gain us 3 life, so very potent against any aggro or burn strategies, as we can pad our life total, buy ourselves more time to eventually find Ketramose, and then with the incidental damage from defeat, it's not going to take too long to close out the game attacking with our Ketramose. Then we have even more graveyard hate with 2 copies of Kudzil's Flanker, and this isn't a dead card against non-graveyard strategies, since we can still play it as a 3/1 at instant speed, can either gain 2 and scry 2, which is going to be the mode against aggro decks, as we can pad our life total and look for more answers, can also maybe enter with a bunch of +1 counters, but rarely use the first mode, but the reason we're playing it is to exile target player's graveyard, so this can be especially backbreaking against the various Kevero decks, since they'll put Kevero on the stack, even if they make it uncounterable with the Cavern of Souls, which is where counter spells will maybe fall short. At least with a Flanker we can at instant speed remove their graveyard, and now Kevero is just a 4-mana 4/4, which we can easily handle. And then we also have 2 copies of Ghost Vacuum, and this can also steadily exile cards from graveyards, even our own, and that can function as a nice card draw engine alongside Ketramose, and at some point we can also pay 6 mana to return all the exiled creatures in the form of 1/1 spirits, so that can sometimes also come up and function as another backup win condition. Then we also have 2 copies of Authority, especially good against the hasty red decks, making their creatures enter tapped and gain a life, but even some of the Kevero combo decks now play Craterhoof Behemoth and other ways to give their creatures haste, such as Arden to give demons haste, so then having all those creatures enter tapped means we don't take lethal, and then we can maybe clean things up with a sweeper afterwards. Then we have Seam Rip as a cheap way to exile a 1 or 2 drop from the opponent, can also deal with non-creature permanents potentially. And then I haven't mentioned any of our sweepers yet. We have 7 total, 2 copies of Pinnacle Starcage, a way to clear smaller stuff, can also deal with opposing artifacts, so not the worst card against the various artifact combo decks with Synthesizer, and then for 8 mana can also potentially make some robot tokens, but the important part here also is that it exiles stuff, so can also trigger Ketramose. And then at 4 mana we have the classic Day of Judgment, and then at 5 mana to spice things up, 1 copy of Ultima, mainly here to fight the various artifact decks that rely on Synthesizer, as this can just knock out the opponent in 1 fell swoop, but we do have to be careful since it also blows up our own Starcage, and even though Ultima ends the turn, it will still return all of the exiled stuff to the opponent, and then it can also blow up our own Ghost Vacuum, so if we draw both we might want to keep one in hand in case we need to Ultima at some point. And then 2 copies of Deadly Cover-Up, which is also a great way to extract a key combo piece out of the opponent's deck, such as maybe a Kevero or a Screaming Nemesis out of the red decks, which can potentially prevent us from gaining life for the rest of the game. And this can also exile cards in the process to enable Ketramose, since we can collect evidence as much as we want, even past 6 mana value total, so we can easily exile our own graveyard if that meets the condition for Ketramose to start attacking. And then the mana base is just a simple mix of shock lands, such as Godless Shrine and Sacred Foundry. Also have 2 copies of the Shadowy Backstreet to surveil, and then all 12 of the Verge lands, which are then easily enabled with our shock lands, and then 1 of each Plains and Swamps, since those are the primary colors of the deck. So let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the draw with a nice opening hand. Good mix of removal and Ketramose to hopefully draw some cards. Facing black-green. So we do have to be careful in case our opponents got their own edict effects to get rid of Ketramose. Looks like the Reanimator deck. So what we do not have in this hand is any real graveyard hate. So that would be nice to find. For now, I guess we keep up Helix. So the 2 flankers and the Strategic Betrayal would be among our top draws. Could point Lightning Helix at their face, just to gain 3 mostly. The defeat can maybe draw us a card with Ketramose. Opponent's got the Floodmaw to bounce, so that might buy them some time as they flash back Esper Origins. So they're probably looking for Kevero to reanimate the Bringer. A 4/4 summon Esper. So the mana value is still 2. This does get rid of creatures, so that would be an answer. Yeah, I guess that's fine. They have another Floodmaw in hand, which is potentially bouncing Ketramose here, but yeah, I'll run it back. I'll keep up 2 mana just in case. Opponent's gonna bargain. That can dig pretty deep for Kevero, which would also get rid of Ketramose. Or does it? I guess it doesn't sacrifice. It does, okay. So it does get around indestructible. It's gonna be an Awaken, can only get rid of the Star Cage. But Esper Origins is still exiled. So, could just Inevitable Defeats awaken the Honored Dead. They may bounce Ketramose in response, so we don't get to draw. Find a replacement. So still digging for our Graveyard Hate. Now River Regent Hardcast. Can bounce the Insight as well. Just bounces Ketramose. Run it back, wait for the Regent to attack so we can exile it. Although it's not going to draw us a card, since it only happens in our turn. So I could just take the hit, honestly. Seam Rip can get rid of the Insight, which would also draw us a card. Opponent can wait to bounce the Seam Rip to re-trigger their insight, but that's okay. We're just looking for graveyard hate at this point. So, yeah, I think I should main phase the Rise End, even though they can bounce Ketramose in response now. Because if I draw into my sorcery speed graveyard hate, I want to be able to cast it. Alright, inevitable defeat isn't bad. 4 cards in exile at the moment. Opponent can just hardcast their Bringer. Yep. In response, I guess we can defeat, or we can save it for the Voltborn Tyrants. That's maybe better. They get to draw a bunch of cards. First want to play Ketramose, and then defeat. Alright, Day of Judgment. Next turn can buy us more time. And Awaken. Destroy Seam Rip. Mills Cavero at long last. "25 cards remaining in library. Find another Seam Rip." So they still have Floodmaw available. I guess I can start by casting the Seam Rip. Find another one. Now Right's End draws us another card. Better answer than casting the Day of Judgment right now. So now we might see them bounce Ketramose, since it would also attack for 4. And then now I could Day of Judgment. So now Cavero can copy my own Ketramose, fair enough. We do have answers. Plenty of stuff that can exile it. Flanker might be a little bit late to the party. So if I main phase this, I can exile their graveyard, draw a card, and then still gain 3 so I don't die. And a Betrayal can answer Cavero. Would put me to 1. Opponent's gonna discard a land, taking out the flanker. Okay, we're at 1. Their graveyard's nice and clean. Can hopefully start attacking. Opponent milled Cavero. Can copy my stuff, which includes a flanker. Opponent's gonna gain 2, scry 2. And now a deadly cover-up. So let me start by attacking. Get rid of all of my creatures in graveyard, which we did. So then we just want to collect evidence. Destroy Cavero. And then exile it out of their deck. So they had 1 in hand. No copies remaining in library. Still 2 bringers, 2 regions, a Voltborn, and Esper Origins. That could cause trouble. Seam Rip is a redraw with the Dredger's Insight. Although I might want to find answers to larger threats at this point. We have 30 cards remaining. Inside goes Digging. They don't have a ton of cards left in library, but they did find a Regent. So I kinda need to draw an answer here, because Helix may not keep me alive. Assuming they bounce Ketramose. Bouncing Seam Rip is a little risky, because with 9 cards left, they won't have much time to use those cards. Gets a Bringer, which has Bringer, Tyrant in graveyard. Although getting back a Tyrant at this point is also pretty sketchy. So I probably just Helix face, because I may need my mana elsewhere. Backstreet. So I do get a redraw with Ketramose into Seam Rip, so I may as well improve my draw with a Backstreet. And that's not going to answer a Regent. Let's see what we get. And that'll do it. Clean up their graveyard too. Although we still need an answer to a 6/6 flyer. Although getting an attack in with Ketramose could keep us alive for an extra turn. Opponent's also gaining a lot of life with the Dredger's Insight, and there's inevitable defeat. Alright, did we finally do it? There might be 1 Regent left in their deck. Esper Origins goes Digging. Can answer it with a Starcage. So they keep things as is. And there's the Regent once again. 3, 4, 5, 6 mana, so they can cast it. So we'll let that happen. I want to defeat him my turn, I think. Can start with a Starcage, I suppose. Find authority. And Ultima can wipe the board. What a game. I think Bringer's their last creature. They have 2 cards left in library. And that'll do it. Awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a keepable, if unexciting hand. Needs Ketramose. Although Starcage is very effective against a life gain deck. Helix seems good enough. And a Pridemate is next, so not active just yet. So I could keep up Helix to maybe take out a Linden, which wouldn't get answered by the Starcage. Even though I'll maybe have to take 2 damage later. Also don't want to play the Ghost Vacuum into our own Starcage. Alright, Channeler's fine. So we'll just let all the triggers happen and then clean things up with a Starcage. Even though I could have saved myself quite a bit of damage. Got plenty more removal in hand, so we don't mind playing a longer game. Another Pridemate is easy pickings for Lightning Helix. And then I can add a Ghost Vacuum to the board as well. I'll do this now just in case. Opponent's got nothing. Could still be fine to exile stuff. Want to keep some amount of cards left for Ketramose if we draw it. But also want to start increasing the amount of cards in exile in general. Now we might go for Flanker to scry 2. Hell yeah, we can Helix. Or we can use our Sorcery Speed Betrayal first. Alright, perfect. Ketramose into defeat. So I can draw Ketramose and then still Betrayal. Which will draw a card. Ghost Vacuum my own Helix, draw another card. And then next turn Ketramose can attack. So we're well in control. They might have a Sheltered by Ghosts to exile stuff temporarily. Valor Stance, I'm afraid, does not work on an indestructible creature. And our opponent scoops it up. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. Our hand is a little clunky with double Ghost Vacuum, no Ketramose. Very good against graveyard decks, but that's about it. I'll take a mulligan. This is a bit more balanced. And then maybe don't need the cover up right away. Forest Lanor Elves. I'll keep the land on top. Just want to work our way up towards Day of Judgments. And then we'll see if we need to Betrayal. Curator can also keep the graveyards clear. I don't think I Betrayal. Can just catch everything with a Starcage, hopefully. Although if they ramp out a 4-drop, that's gonna hurt. Innkeeper's Talent. We also won't be able to exile with a Starcage. but I'll still go for it. Or we can Ketramose. Now let's prevent taking too much damage. And then defeat a fine answer to the talent, potentially. Opponent is blue-green, so likely an Ouroboros deck. So ideally we can exile Ouroboros before it gets a chance to trigger. And there it is, on top of the deck. So I could pass with mana up, then our opponent maybe doesn't cast Ouroboros yet. Although now I can also answer it with a Lightning Helix and just Betrayal the Siren. Does mean losing out on a bunch of Ketramose triggers. And we might struggle to have enough cards in exile if I Betrayal now as opposed to waiting. So there is a lot to consider. But I think I still make this play. Opponent's got a Beastbinder instead. Could also shut down Ketramose if it gets to attack. Which is problematic if we're planning to cast a sweeper. Yeah, I guess we'll Helix, and then if they protect it, which they do, it's not a disaster. Does have Ward 1 now, so can't target it with a defeat. So I guess now I'm going for Ketramose. Beastbinder can attack, and then we can defeat Ouroboros, assuming I draw lands to pay the ward. Otherwise I might have to just pass and try and defeat Ouroboros. Or we can hit the talents before it triggers. Opponent's got Druneth. So it looks like I'm gonna defeat the talent then. So no more ward. And now Day of Judgment looks fine. Dark Age lost its ability, so I guess we cannot sacrifice it for 8 mana. Doesn't come up very often. So yeah, I guess we can wait to just Day of Judgment. For now, take 4. Opponent hasn't drawn their 4th land, but there's Ouroboros. Alright, so we'll take some damage, but should be able to stabilize from there. So with a land, we can maybe Ketramose into Starcage. They have another Ouroboros as their last card. I don't think I want to risk our opponent untapping with Ouroboros, even though I miss out on my card draw that way. It's just too scary if they draw like a Paw Patch Recruit with Offspring, all of a sudden they have a million creatures in play. And yeah, our opponent has seen enough. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with what looks like functional hands, although we do need a couple more lands here. I'll try it. Ketramose would be a good draw as well. Although I guess I hadn't noticed, I thought this was a Godless Shrine. So I don't actually have any white mana until I find a dual land. Can still cast the Betrayals. So yeah, this hand's a little bit more suspect now. Opponent on Sultai, so likely the Graveyard combo deck, as we see the Overlord. Alright, so Betrayal should be good. And there's Ketramose, so just need to hit my land drops. Not in a hurry to Betrayal. Emmet. So now Betrayal looks good. This card's a bringer. And there's our lands. Alright, so we should be in decent shape now. Yeah, and I'm gonna want a Betrayal before our opponent gets a chance to Kivero back all their stuff. So we have 6 cards in exile already. As for Origins, is gonna keep digging. So they're on the Vein Ripper build. Alright, I guess we are happy to play Ketramose now. We'll see if they have answers. Scholar can draw and discard. Maybe setting up another bringer. Quack Feast cannot deal with Ketramose. So next turn Overlord is online. Got a few options here. Could just Betrayal now. Ketramose gets to attack, draw a card. That's pretty decent, and then I can still keep up Flanker just in case. And I kind of want to defeat the Overlord in my own turn, so I get to draw an extra card. So yeah, that seems good enough. Start putting them under some pressure. They may need to hardcast the Bringer of the Last Gift to get rid of Ketramose, at which point we might have drawn another one. Alright, House grows hungry. Also can deal with Ketramose, but they have to go through Chapter 1 first. And then let's scry, since we have another flanker. Want to try and get the game over with before the opponent starts hardcasting their stuff. Strategic Betrayal cannot be bad. Day of Judgment doesn't seem needed, and yeah, our opponent has seen enough. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play. We have a functional hand, nothing too exciting. But we've got removal, some graveyard hates, our 3 colors. Can always use this to scry. And maybe find Ketramose up against the life gain deck. Alright, so keep up Helix. Another Sanctifier is fine. I think we keep Helix to answer one of their payoff cards. And then try and clean up the 1/1s with one of our sweepers. Starcage would be good too. Alright, Pride Maid needs to go. Although I could still use Inevitable Defeat instead of Helix. And for now play the Flanker, which can also ambush a Sanctifier. And we could always scry into a Day of Judgment, which would make things easy. Alright, Ultima can eventually clean up, and another Inevitable Defeat seems fine. So then I don't mind trading. I'll just main phase the defeat in case of any shenanigans. And hope they play out more creatures that we can Ultima. Alright, perfect. And a Resplendent Angel. Can they gain enough to make an Angel token? Not quite. So we still need to draw Ketramose, but sometimes against creature decks you don't even need a win condition when they just lose their entire board. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with keepable hands, missing some of our exile synergies perhaps, but at least we've got some graveyard hate. Ultima good against the artifact decks. Always looking for Ketramose. Alright, against red aggro. Good to have Lightning Helix. Probably gonna cast it now. We'll see if they have a hasty 2-drop that's scarier. A Needlehead. Needlehead's good, but I think Hardclaw is scarier right now. Although I guess we can ambush the Hardclaw potentially, whereas we cannot ambush Needlehead with First Strike. So it's actually a close call. Maybe I should just get rid of the needlehead now. Of course, they're likely to burn the flanker before I get a chance to block. So this will be a gain 2 scry 2 and a second claw. So if they pump, we still trade, but they likely have a separate burn spell. So then we kind of want a Day of Judgment here, or a Star Cage. Yep, shock. Well, another Helix, I guess, buys us more time. Still at 20 at least. Next turn we can Ultima. Bone moves to attackers. I'll save myself a bunch of damage. Otherwise they would have probably just attacked and pumped both. Can only activate once. And we are flooding a little bit. So I don't want to just Ultima for one creature when my hand's not that good. I need to get at least a second one. And hope they can't play Screaming Nemesis and damage it in the same turn. Because that would be a disaster. So we're taking 6 damage here if they pump. But now Ultima looks good. And yeah, Ketramose would be an awesome top deck, as I can play it, Betrayal, clean up their graveyard, and have enough cards in exile to start attacking with my lifelinker. And I messed up, I should have played land first. I keep forgetting that Ultima ends the turn. So yeah, you do want to make sure to play your land first. Still gonna Betrayal here. Opponent's got 1 card left. And it's a Burst Lightning kicked, so we're at 10. So can't feel too great in this position, but a couple top decks can easily change that. Ghost Vacuum also great if we draw Ketramose. Can exile my own flanker, maybe get it back. Six mana to make a 1/1 version. So I could do that now. It's a little drastic. Can only do it as a sorcery. But I don't actually hate it, since we're pretty desperate to do something here. Authority isn't bad. It's got to be good enough to keep. Even if it's not a Ketramose. The red deck flooding a bit. And there's a Hard Claw. That we can Betrayal. And Cover Up would love to extract Screaming Nemesis out of their deck. But they might have a burn spell left to damage it beforehand. Village not super relevant now that we have Authority. Still a way to maybe trigger the Emberheart Challenger if they're running it, to exile the top card. Inevitable Defeat's a good one. Can maybe target the Nemesis before the opponent manages to burn it. So yeah, this 1/1 flanker, trying to go the distance. A Lightning Strike puts us to 9. Opponent keeps running out their lanes. I'm not too concerned about like kick Burst Lightning into another flurry of burn spells. Right, and another answer to Screaming Nemesis. So yeah, now it's mostly draw enough life gain to make up for the opponent's burn spells and find Ketramose eventually. Needlehead gains us a life. Do I Inevitable Defeat before I draw? I probably should. They might end up burning their own Needlehead to deny the life gain. And our opponent scoops it up. Alright, so we managed to beat the burn deck as well. So yeah, this deck has the tools to beat graveyard decks, beat aggro, all sorts of creature decks with our many sweepers. It can be weak to control decks, but as you can see, those aren't super popular on the best of one ladder at least. So you can usually dodge those matchups, but a blue-white control deck that can easily counter or exile Ketramose and then doesn't care too much about your removal spells is going to be a tough one, especially mill decks, since yeah, they can just take their time to mill us out and we don't have a lot of pressure. So those are the types of matchups you want to avoid. Maybe some combo decks like Kona, if they can protect it, they can combo off in one big turn, although even there, Inevitable Defeat can answer some of their non-creature permanents as well, so we still have outs. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. Want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.